The energy surrounding this fight is electric, an imaginary clash. So intense, it feels real. Two titans, two legacies, and one hypothetical showdown that fight fans can't stop dreaming about. Francis Ngannou vs. Jon Jones. The heavyweight division has seen its share of legendary battles, but this one, if it ever happened, would be different. It's the ultimate contrast in styles, a collision of raw power and technical brilliance, an encounter that could redefine what it means to be the best fighter on the planet. What if the cage door locked? The referee signaled for war, and these two gladiators finally stood across from each other, ready to unleash every ounce of their skill, strength, and strategy? The thought alone is enough to send shivers down the spine. For years, fans have debated this matchup. Francis Ngannou, the knockout artist, a man whose fists carry the weight of destruction, whose rise from adversity to UFC gold is nothing short of cinematic. Then there's Jon Jones, the tactical genius, the man who has dominated every opponent placed before him, a fighter who adapts, outsmarts, and dismantles with a level of skill rarely seen in combat sports. Their paths have never truly crossed in the octagon, but the speculation has never stopped. Would Ngannou's terrifying power be enough to crack the unshakable defense of Jones? Or would Jones's elusive footwork, razor-sharp fight IQ, and relentless wrestling prove too much for the knockout king? The anticipation alone fuels the imagination. Picture the moment they step into the arena. Ngannou, his presence alone exuding the kind of intimidation that only the most dangerous fighters possess. Across from him, Jones, calm and calculating, his mind already 3 moves ahead. The crowd erupts as they meet in the center of the cage, every heartbeat syncing with the tension in the air. There's no turning back now. Every fighter brings a weapon to battle, and in this case, both men carry arsenals unlike anything the division has seen before. Ngannou's fists have left opponents unconscious before they even hit the ground, while Jones's creativity and versatility have kept him ahead of some of the sport's most elite competitors. But this isn't just about physicality, it's about mentality. Ngannou's hunger, his relentless pursuit of greatness, fueled by everything he's endured to reach this stage. Jones's obsession with legacy, his need to remain undefeated at the highest level, his ability to thrive under pressure. Two warriors, driven by entirely different forces, yet destined to collide in a way that only legends do. Tactically, this fight is a chess match with devastating consequences. Ngannou only needs one clean shot, one opening, one mistake from Jones, and the fight could be over in the blink of an eye. But that's the thing about Jones. He rarely makes mistakes. His ability to control distance, dictate pace, and neutralize an opponent's strengths makes him one of the most dangerous fighters to ever step inside the cage. He wouldn't brawl. He wouldn't give Ngannou a stationary target. He would force angles, mix in unpredictable attacks, and keep his opponent guessing at every moment. But can he do that for 5 rounds? Can he avoid the one thing that has toppled even the toughest challengers before? The opening round is crucial. Ngannou storms forward, testing Jones' defense with the kind of power that makes every movement a potential knockout. Jones, ever the strategist, maintains his range, finding opportunities to attack without getting drawn into a firefight. The cage becomes their battleground, every feint, every movement carrying the weight of a split-second decision that could determine the outcome. The fans hold their breath as the first significant exchange lands, one fighter staggering back for just a moment before resetting. The war has officially begun. No matter who you believe would win, one thing is undeniable. This is the fight that the heavyweight division never got but always deserved. A battle between the sport's most terrifying finisher and its most masterful tactician. A fight where history, skill, and the hunger for greatness collide in ways that words can barely describe. And just as it seems like one man is gaining the upper hand, something happens that no one saw coming. The sound of the impact echoed through the arena. A perfectly timed strike, A moment of vulnerability, one fighter momentarily rocked, but not broken. The crowd roared, the tension thick enough to feel in the air, and both warriors knew they were in a battle unlike any other. Ngannou had felt it before, that brief moment when he knew his opponent was close to breaking. But Jon Jones was different. Even in adversity, his composure remained intact, his eyes scanning for the next move, the next adjustment, the next opportunity to turn the tide. Beyond the cage, the world watched with anticipation. Fighters, analysts, and fans dissected every second, debating in real time how this war would unfold. Some believed Ngannou's power was simply too overwhelming, that Jones would eventually miscalculate, leaving an opening that would end the fight in an instant. Others argued that Jones had faced danger before and always found a way to survive, that his adaptability and strategic mind would ultimately wear down the heavyweight powerhouse. But inside that cage, theories meant nothing. It was about who could impose their will, who could execute their game plan when everything was on the line. For Ngannou, this fight was more than just a test of strength. It was a statement. A man who had risen from unimaginable hardship, whose journey from poverty to championship glory had already defied the odds, now stood against the one opponent who many believed was untouchable. He had conquered fear, endured struggles that most could never comprehend, and emerged as the most feared puncher in the sport. But he wasn't just a force of destruction. The years had refined him, turned him into a more calculated, patient fighter. He wasn't swinging recklessly. He was hunting, waiting for the precise moment when Jones would be just a fraction of a second too slow. Jones, however, had spent his career proving that moments like these were where he thrived. He had fought champions, legends, and undefeated prospects, and every time he found a way to stay ahead. His ability to see patterns, to adjust his approach mid-fight, was what made him special. He didn't need to be the fastest or the hardest hitter, he just needed to be the smartest. And right now, with a powerhouse like Ngannou standing in front of him, he was thinking 5 steps ahead. He feinted, drew reactions, tested angles, all while staying just outside the danger zone. Then, without warning, the fight took another turn. Ngannou cut off the cage, forcing Jones to move where he wanted. A sharp combination followed, one that barely missed its mark, but carried a clear message: Ngannou was closing in. Jones responded instantly, shooting in for a level change, not necessarily to secure a takedown, but to create hesitation, to keep Ngannou from fully committing to his power shots. The chess match continued, each fighter looking for the moment that could define the entire fight. Outside the cage, the debate raged on. Coaches and former fighters analyzed the smallest details. Was Jones beginning to find his rhythm, or was Ngannou setting a trap? Would Jones's legendary endurance become a factor as the fight dragged on, or would one well-placed strike render that irrelevant? Everyone had a prediction, but no one truly knew. This was uncharted territory, a matchup that had existed only in speculation, now unfolding in brutal reality. The stakes weren't just about winning or losing. For Ngannou, this was about cementing his place as the most dangerous heavyweight in history, proving that no style, no level of technical brilliance could survive his power. For Jones, it was about solidifying a legacy that had already been written in gold, about proving that even the most fearsome puncher in the world was just another puzzle for him to solve. It was history in the making, but history wasn't written yet. As the clock ticked down, neither man had gained a decisive edge, but the feeling was undeniable. Something was about to happen. The patterns were shifting, the strategies evolving, and both fighters knew that the moment of truth was drawing near. And then, in the midst of the battle, came the kind of opening that changes everything. Jones moved with precision, his every step calculated, his every feint designed to lure Ngannou into a mistake. The crowd had settled into an eerie tension, the kind that only exists when something big is about to happen. Ngannou, sensing that Jones was trying to dictate the rhythm, adjusted. He cut angles more sharply, pressed forward with controlled aggression rather than reckless pursuit. And then, in a moment so quick, it could be missed in the blink of an eye, Jones took a risk. He lunged in with a perfectly timed elbow, the same strike that had spelled disaster for so many opponents before. But Ngannou saw it, his instincts sharpened by years of fighting men who thought they could outmaneuver him. He slipped just enough to let the strike graze past him, and in that fraction of a second, he countered with a devastating uppercut. The sound of the impact was unmistakable, the kind that made the entire arena react in unison. Jones stumbled for the first time in the fight, his legendary composure briefly disrupted. Ngannou surged forward, eyes locked onto his wounded opponent. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the opening that so many before him had never found. Jones had survived wars, taken shots from some of the hardest hitters in the sport, but Ngannou was different. His power wasn't just dangerous, it was fight-ending. He threw another shot, this one a hook, meant to put Jones down for good. But Jones, even in danger, was never predictable. Instead of retreating, he ducked under the punch and instinctively wrapped himself around Ngannou, forcing the fight into the clinch. The arena held its breath as the two titans grappled against the cage, each man fighting for control in a battle of sheer will. Ngannou's raw strength threatened to break the deadlock, but Jones's technique was his equalizer. He shifted his weight, dragged Ngannou off balance just enough to create a scramble, and in an incredible display of timing, tripped the bigger man to the mat. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Jones wasted no time. This was his world, the place where he had suffocated legends, where he had dismantled those who thought they could overpower him. He transitioned seamlessly, moving to a dominant position, his experience allowing him to control the chaos. Ngannou struggled, his power undeniable, but Jones's leverage and positioning made it nearly impossible for him to escape cleanly. For the first time in the fight, it felt like the momentum had shifted completely. But then, something happened that no one saw coming. Just as Jones looked to advance further, to lock in a submission or rain down strikes, Ngannou did something unexpected. Instead of trying to brute force his way out, he used Jones' own intelligence against him. He remained patient, waiting for the moment when Jones adjusted his grip, and with a sudden explosion of movement, he reversed the position in an instant. In a display of sheer athleticism, Ngannou powered his way to his feet, lifting Jones in the process before slamming him down with shocking force. The arena was in chaos. The fight that had already exceeded every expectation had just taken another unpredictable turn. Jones, known for always being a step ahead, had just been outmaneuvered by a man whose biggest weapon was supposed to be his striking, not his grappling. The expression on his face remained unreadable, but for the first time, there was a question that had never been asked before. Was Jon Jones starting to run out of answers? Ngannou pressed his advantage, landing short but powerful strikes as he tried to keep Jones pinned. But Jones, always composed under pressure, managed to shift his position just enough to avoid the worst of the damage. The fight had become something no one had expected, a test of survival, a war of attrition where both men had been hurt, both had found themselves in danger, and neither had backed down. The clock continued to tick, and the reality set in one moment. One mistake would decide everything. And just as it seemed like one fighter was beginning to take control, an even bigger twist was waiting to unfold. Jones took a deep breath, his mind racing as he adjusted his position. He had been in tough fights before, but this one was different. Ngannou wasn't just powerful, he was learning, adapting, growing stronger as the fight went on. Jones had always prided himself on being the one to make his opponents question themselves, but now, for the first time, he was the one who had to find answers. Ngannou loomed over him, his presence alone a reminder of the danger still ahead. He was patient now, refusing to make the mistake of rushing in carelessly. Jones, sensing the urgency, faked another scramble, baiting Ngannou into reacting just enough for him to slip away and regain his footing. The fight reset, both men now standing once again, their bodies battered but their spirits unbroken. The final round began with a tension that felt almost unbearable. Jones, knowing he couldn't afford another clean shot from Ngannou, began moving with more urgency, throwing sharp kicks to the legs and body, keeping his opponent guessing. Ngannou, unfazed, stalked forward, his eyes locked onto Jones, waiting for the opening that would end it all. Every strike thrown now had a different weight, each movement carrying the knowledge that one mistake could be the difference between victory and defeat. Then, in an instant, Jones made his move. He feinted another kick, forcing Ngannou to react, and then shot in with a level change so fast it seemed impossible at this stage of the fight. He wrapped his arms around Ngannou's legs, driving forward with every ounce of technique he had perfected over the years. For a brief moment, it looked like the takedown was secured. The crowd gasped. But just as quickly as Jones had committed, Ngannou sprawled, his balance perfect, his strength undeniable. What happened next stunned everyone. Instead of simply defending, Ngannou did the unthinkable. He countered with a guillotine choke, locking his massive arms around Jones's neck as he sprawled over him. Jones, caught mid-transition, suddenly found himself in a position he never expected. The pressure was instant, the squeeze relentless. For the first time in his legendary career, he was in serious danger of being finished. Seconds felt like hours. Jones fought, clawed at Ngannou's grip, searching for the smallest opening to escape. The crowd was on its feet, some screaming for Jones to survive, others sensing that history was about to be made. Jones twisted, turned, but Ngannou had him locked in deep. His power, his technique, everything had come together in this one moment. And then, just as the referee moved in closer, just as the impossible seemed about to happen, Jones slipped free. In a last-ditch effort, using the experience that had kept him unbeaten for so long, he found an angle, forced his way out, and broke free from the choke. The crowd erupted in shock. Ngannou, his arms burning from the effort, took a deep breath, knowing that was his best chance to finish the fight. Both men were exhausted now. The final seconds ticked away as they stood toe-to-toe, throwing whatever they had left in a final exchange of strikes. Ngannou landed a thunderous right hand that sent Jones stumbling back, but Jones, somehow, kept moving, firing back with a spinning elbow that glanced off Ngannou's temple. The final horn sounded. The war was over. The decision was left in the hands of the judges. The arena was silent as the scorecards were read. Every fan, every expert, had a different opinion. Some saw Ngannou's power and near finish as the deciding factor. Others believed Jones' control, strategy, and resilience had done just enough. The announcement came. A split decision. And then, the final shock of the night, Jon Jones was declared the winner. Ngannou nodded, the disappointment clear but his respect undeniable. He had pushed Jones further than anyone ever had. The crowd, divided in their opinions, erupted in applause. But just as Jones raised his hands in victory, just as the moment settled, he did something unexpected. He turned to Ngannou, leaned in, and whispered something only the two of them could hear. Ngannou's expression changed, first confusion, then a small smirk. As the interviews began, Jones looked into the camera, exhausted but calm. "That wasn't just a fight," he said. "That was a war. And I don't think it's over yet." The hint was there, the possibility lingering in the air. A rematch? A new chapter in their unfinished story? The night had given answers, but in its wake, it had left an even bigger question. One that the entire world would be waiting to see unfold.